this course, Basic Manufacturing Process, Unit 2, and Lecture 37, the metal forming is continued. Agenda for today. In this video I present the hot extrusion types of extrusion process: direct forward extrusion, indirect reverse in inverted and backward extrusion, combined extrusions and hydrostatic extrusion, impact extrusion. The advantage of extrusion process, limitation of extrusions and application of extrusions. Hot extrusion process. The hot extrusion is basically is hot working process. It done by finally high temperatures, approximately 50 to 75% of melting point of the metal. The pressure can range for the 35 to 700 megapascal is required in hot extrusion process. Due to high temperature and pressure, it's the deterministical effect on the die life involved as the other components. Good lubrication is necessary. The principle of variable which the influence the force required. Some of the extrusion are, there are types of the extrusion process. There are two types of extrusion. One, number extrusion ratio, working temperature and speed of the deformation, and its the financial condition at the die of the container wall. Types of the extrusion process. Extrusion process can be classified in five way: direct extrusion process, indirect extrusion process, combined and hydrostatic extrusion process. In impact, the direct extrusion process, the forward direct extrusion, sometimes known as the Hawker's process, the billet side related to the container wall. This is the forward extrusion process, and the direct is known as also known as direct extrusion process. This is the this in the this is the ram on the die. Is the wall of the mandrel. This is in the force is applied through the ram. The billet is used. This is the chamber of the in filled in the molten metal, and then apply force and achieve to the extruded rod of the process. The billet side related to the container of the dummy block. This is the dummy block. Uh, Pressure plate is a placed to the end of the contact ram contact of the process is generally used for the produce the profile section with wall lubrication part with the high flanks straight tubing safe and the hollow part of the produce. The typical product produced are the bolts and screw are shaped in shaft. Indirect immunity indirect reverse in the indirected for the backward extrusion. Indirect extrusion is the process that force the metal conformed into activity flow in the direction opposite of the ram travel. Here the die move toward the billet through the exit and the die. There is the relative to motion of the billet container interface. As the consequence, the frictional force low and the power required for extrusion is less than direct extrusion. Backward extrusion is the useful for the forming and variety of the cylindrical shapes such as the nut, sleeve, and tucker rivets. In this is the indirect and reverse extrusion process, and this is the small ram and this is the ram is applied in the force pressure force. Then this is the ram and this is the billet of ram is in the consist of uh, collected to the molten metals, and this is the upper and this is the chamber of the extrusion. Indirect extrusion apply the force, and this is the production, and the extrusion part is achieved in the opposite direction. Combined extrusion used for combination of forward extrusion and backward extrusion. Forward extrusion and backward extrusion. The metal is confined inside of matrix between the lower and upper chambers, and this force is metal flow through the upward and downward. The extruded part is filled to the die on the backward stroke, slightly the field on the bed of the process. Some of effect is combined extrusion process. It is very fast process. It can be complicated part in the few parts. It can be produced large quantity with with flow of unit cost. It wasted little material. It can be part with the small drills. It required minor tools, cooling. Hydrostatic extrusion process. Hydrostatic extrusion. This process is this process is the chamber is filled to the fluid is transmitted of pressure on the billet, which is the extruded through the die. This is the friction long wall in the friction long walls is the die is the container. The because the wood is subjected to the uniform hydrostatic pressure. It does not supported fill on the because of the container is toward the conventional extrusion because the pressurized the fluid lubrication is very effective, and the extrusive part has good surface finish and dimensional accuracy. Since the fabrication near the velvet, and it is the possible for die and with the very low sun come incoming with the generalize the minimize the this is the chambers. This is the chambers of the part, and in the fluid of the fluid of metal extruded part. This is the ram. Is the mandrel is a dummy block. Is the ram. Then the apply the pressure for force with the help of ram. This the extrusion part is and the hydrostatic extrusion process. Impact extrusion process is the indirect extrusion in that extrusion for the particularly suitable for hollow shape is usually perform the high speed mechanical press. Much described as the high speed of strict and blank extruding for the word and thickness of the extrusion section is the uniform function of the clearance between the punch and the die cavity is the process for the preferred for cooled considerable heating. The result and high speed deformation. Impact extrusion is restricted to the softer metal such as lead within the aluminum or copper. This is the chamber of the die, and this is the wheelet is the fill in the uh, fill molten metal, and this is the this is the impact for the upper side of provide the upward direction applied through the of the punch press to the punch in the extrusion metal. Thank you so much. In this process, in the lecture series, I present in the extrusion process, reverse extrusion, backward extrusion, and forward extrusion process, cluster of extrusion process.